Daniel Bloch from Camille Bloch, welcome to CNN Money Switzerland.
Hello.
We're here at one of the last family-owned chocolate factories in the whole of Switzerland.
Right.
How important is it for you that Switzerland has this reputation as a fabulous chocolate maker?
It's a good ground to work here as a Swiss chocolatier. Everyone likes you in the world. And I think that this reputation is also deserved over a long time, because some Swiss invented they didn't invent the chocolate, but they made very important inventions to produce it, to manufacture it.
So how hard is it then in this modern age to maintain that success?
You're challenged. We are in a world that is turning fast, and other people, if you are number one, and that's what we feel we are, everyone is challenging you, and other manufacturers make also good chocolate. So in order to maintain this level of Swiss chocolate, you have to work hard every day. What is helpful in that competition is that our consumers, and that's sometimes a little bit underestimated, that our consumers are very demanding. I think to maintain a very high level of quality, you need demanding consumers, because they tell you if something is wrong, that it's wrong.
And what about innovation? How does that play a role in pushing the business forward?
I must say that innovation is important. It's not very obvious always to consumers that we have to innovate. On the contrary, I think chocolate is like a good old friend. It needs to remain the same for many people. It's the currency of use. It's something that you have been used to since you're young. But over the time, people change. They change their taste. They change their shape, so they need sometimes a little bit smaller portions, for instance, and also they want to change the other recipes, and we have to be very subtle at doing these innovations to be compliant with the values of the brand.
So so basically the innovations that you do are like variations on a theme.
Yes, it's in hindsight it's very easy to explain, but when you have to do an innovation, when you are before an innovation, then you have to think what is the characteristics of the brand and not of the product, and what is the emotion that goes with the chocolate, and you have to be and then that gives you more or less the scope for your innovation, and what is the need of the consumer, and this need is not articulated. You cannot ask people what's your need and then do the chocolate. You have to suggest something, to do something, to make a hypothesis, make something, and then present it. And you never know when you're doing your innovation. It's not clear whether the consumer will like it in the end.
The blonde chocolate, though, that was an innovation that has been successful.
2014 we launched Ragusa Blonde. Now Ragusa is a flagship brand. Every Swiss knows it, and we wanted to launch a product that is a little bit more feminine than the classic Ragusa, and so we had in mind young women, independent women, a little bit wild young women, and so we created this chocolate that was blonde. It was actually a nice story, because the color blonde came because the chocolate was conched too long. Conching is a process of refining chocolate, and if you put white chocolate mass in a conch and you conch it too long, it's getting a little bit caramelized and gets also the color of blonde, and we thought blonde would be a very cool story for Ragusa.
It also kind of reflects the fact that as a company, and I understand you as a person, you like to break rules. You like to challenge.
Yeah. I think change, things must change to remain the same. We want the values to remain the same values, but then we play with recipes, we play with communication, we play with formats, because I think even chocolate consumers that are very conservative, they like also to play. They are children in a way.
This is a third generation family business. How important is family to you?
Family is associated with something very positive. And we have to make, it's our business, our family business does not mean that everyone from the family is working in the business in the first place, or that we are the only family, the Bloch family is the only family that is running the business. We have a lot of families here that are working. We are here in Chocolatier, this is in the French part of the state of Bern. And we work long term. To me, family has a meaning. It means we know each other. It means we have a long-term perspective. It means we trust each other. This is what we associate with family as a concept.
I mean, but did you always think that you would work here at the family business?
In fact, I was not always sure. And I think that's a little bit, let's say, a challenge in a family business, that when you step in, there is no exit, you know, or you feel there is no exit. So that was a little stress when I started, and therefore I made clear to my father that I would always, if I don't like it, exit. And he was free to ask me, and I was also lucky to start, but I always wanted the possibility to, if I don't like it, if I would want to change, to get out of it.
But and you do like it?
And I like it a lot. But you know, my father compared with his cat. He said, our cat is only eating when the window is open in the kitchen, so that he can escape when he wants. And so he compared me with his cat, and that was a perfect picture, because it's true. If I feel closed in, I don't feel well.
So you don't feel a responsibility, or perhaps you do, but just in a different way? I
feel a responsibility, but I don't feel that I'm absolutely forced to stay forever. If I want to, but you always have to make a decision. What do you want? Because it's a demanding task to be responsible for a family business. I mean, and to run the business is something that you have to commit yourself, and from time to time you have to make a new decision. Is that still the right thing to do?
I'm interested in how you see family and the responsibilities, because your family isn't just famous for its chocolate. I mean, your father obviously played a huge role in mediating with Swiss banks following the Second World War. How proud of you are you of him?
He taught me that there are other things between heaven and earth than chocolate. And I think I owe that to him, and that you have to to help others to do things if you can, if you have the energy to do so. And I think that's something important. You cannot solve all the problems. That was also a lesson to me that I learned from him. You cannot do everything, and you cannot. You have, but some things you can do, or more than just doing your job.
So do you have
for society?
Do you have interests or passions outside of work?
I like to be with myself from time to time, because at work I'm a lot with other people, and I think it's important also to be with yourself, to spend time with you, with my family, with my friends. I'm in different associations, other companies also in the board, and I like to to have this diversity.
Let's talk about your business then, where we are today. In recent years, you've seen quite a massive expansion, so I'm assuming chocolate business is booming currently.
No, I feel like Noah, you know, the guy who built his ship when it was very sunny. And so I think right now we are in a saturated market in Switzerland, and for Chocolatier Camille Bloch, Switzerland is still the main market. We have 80% of our sales in Switzerland. We are growing outside, but not at a very fast pace. But when I arrived, you know, we did 2,000 tons of chocolate, and today we're doing 4,000. And I was so happy that I didn't have to build a new factory just as to start, but that I had capacity to use, because it's very tough if you have to construct something. So when you start and you have to build something, it's difficult. If something is here, you can focus on the markets, you can focus on the clients, on the consumers, on the people, and you don't have to build. So I want to leave some capacity to my children when they start.
And I mean, how do you target your potential market abroad? I mean, is that the main focus for you at the moment?
The markets that are growing are duty-free, Germany, France. We have now grown 70% in the last 10 years in Switzerland, so you cannot ask for more. In a way, now they have to digest all the products that we're doing in Switzerland, and but we have still a lot of potential outside of Switzerland. But we have time. You see, we are not the one that want to grow very fast, because I think if you imagine the company as a tree, that there is a top of the tree and there are roots, and if the top of the tree is outgrowing the roots, the tree will not be sustainable. So what we are working on is really also on the roots and on our products that are visible. It's important to be visible, and it's important to spend a lot of resources to be visible today, because the space that is really scarce is the mind space. And if you can create attention for your products, that is something very important. But eventually, if you don't have these roots that give you all this energy, the skills, also the sense to make the tree growing, it's not sustainable. That's a concept that is important to me. So you have to work on both fronts, and if you grow too fast, the risk is that you will eventually lose your roots.
And what about the markets overseas in France and Germany? Are they open to the products that you already have, or do you think that you might change some of your products to suit tastes there better?
I don't think that we have to change the products, because they are great. I think but what I think is that we have to change the concepts of communication, because my view is that in Switzerland we have very traditional consumers that have a loyalty towards the brands, Ragusa, Torino, liquor chocolate, that we don't have outside Switzerland. So we have to come up with other arguments and put other things in front. And the fact that we are a family business, that we do everything, that it's a sort of an artisanal manufacturing, that we can trace the raw materials, all these sustainability arguments are important if we go outside Switzerland, because their consumers are looking for genuine, authentic Swiss products.
Okay, and you're such a huge brand here in Switzerland that you opened a visitor centre here to allow people to come and see how you do things. What was the idea behind that?
The idea was actually that people, they always more, it's a trend, they want to know more about their product. They don't want to consume it, they want to experience it. They want to spend time and understand how is the product done, what is the story of the product, and they want to do that with all their senses, not only with the mouth, but also with the eyes, the ears, and that's the experience that we want to provide here in Chocolatier. And I think this community of people that are especially interested in our company, in our products, is an important asset also for the future, because you know, products, I wouldn't say that they are exchangeable. I don't think so. All the chocolate tastes differently, but still they're getting closer and closer. So what makes the difference is also the emotion around the product, the story that you have, the values, and that's what we want to communicate.
I mean, I speak to a lot of kind of brands around Switzerland, and this idea of engagement is really the way forward for customer loyalty. In an age where, you know, we consume things so very quickly and so easily, when we're all online, it's a way to make another level of connection with your customers. And you said how important that was at the beginning. Yeah.
I think that is a very important goal. Yes, because people don't change the chocolate brand so often, in a way. When they have found their products, they like to eat the same product. Perhaps they have a repertoire of chocolates, you know, where they are not. But I think if you can make this bond with the consumer and they become loyal or even fan to your product, that's a very strong asset that you have then.
How many visitors do you have here?
We have had 100,000 visitors in 1 year, which is a lot. Probably we could have even have more, but it was not the goal to, you know, have every person in the first year. So they can still, some people can still come, they haven't seen it.
How much Switzerland is in your chocolate? It's a tricky question because I know that you source all your cocoa beans from abroad and things, but you know, I mean,
there's Swiss pioneering. The design is Swiss. We have Swiss precision. We have Swiss people doing it. We have the chocolate. We have Swiss history. We do the manufacturing entirely here in Switzerland, from the bean to the finished product, the design, everything. Now the cocoa is not from Switzerland. The hazelnuts are not from Switzerland because they don't grow here. But I think the know-how to mix the products, to make this chocolate specialty, that is a know-how that has been developed here in Switzerland.
And that stamp, Swiss-made stamp, how important is that for your brand? I
think in Switzerland less than outside Switzerland, because people, they trust so much the brand Ragusa and Torino. They have become so familiar with the brand that Switzerland to them, it doesn't mean a lot. But for people that don't know our brands, I think it's a reassuring, let's say, mention of origin, Switzerland, Swiss-made.
And sourcing the cocoa beans and the hazelnuts, how difficult is that for you as a Swiss company?
We give a lot of care and attention to our raw materials, obviously, because what you use as a raw material you will have it in the end. And so so the quality has always been an issue, and when we buy something, we make a sample, we taste it, we analyze it microbiologically, and we accept it or not. Now what has also developed in the last years is the notion of how are these raw materials produced in the origin, how sustainable is it. so we know exactly where the cocoa beans come from Africa, from Ghana, not only from the country, but also from the village. So the notion of responsibility is extending to the origin, the work condition in the origin, our commitment with the people. We are training, we make contribution to train people to make it sustainable, not necessarily because we are good people, but because we know that if the conditions are not well, eventually we will not have the good quality. We have to motivate our suppliers.
Do you have that relationship with all your suppliers?
We have a relationship to all the suppliers. It's easier when they are in Switzerland, like for the sugar or the milk. In Africa it's a little bit more difficult. It's further away, and there's another culture. But we also have been to Turkey, to the places where the hazelnuts come from, and yes, with the main raw materials, we have a lot of contact.
What about packaging and things like that? Because there's a lot more pressure these days on companies to use recyclable materials. Have you thought much on that front?
This is an issue, yes, too. The packaging, we have recyclable packaging. It's something that is not a nice to have thing today. The consumers expect it. And of course, we need the packaging, we need it for different purposes. First of all, to protect the chocolate, because chocolate is heat sensitive. Also to communicate. It's interface with the consumer, so to speak. And so it's very important to have, and also it has to be to fit with the idea of the product, that is genuine, authentic, and also it has to make sense.
Is that hard though, to maintain sustainability, to ensure fair trade as a small-ish business?
Perhaps it's easier than if you're big, because you're more. It's perhaps easier. Some things are easier and some things are more difficult. But I like to see my life as a small. You know, we say in German KMU, small medium enterprise. And I was once asked, "Are you small? Are you medium?" And I said, "As long as I'm an enterprise, I don't care." And to be entrepreneurial in a way is easier if you're small. I wouldn't want to have a big company, because it's a big ship and a tanker. And if you have to steer that around, it's even much more complicated. As a small producer, we are more agile, we're flexible, we don't need a lot of raw materials, so we can have concepts that fits to us.
And that entrepreneurial spirit that you have is in your family, I'm assuming, given that this is a third generation business?
My wife tells me you couldn't be employed in another company because you are so independent, nobody would employ you. And I think she's right.
So what does the future hold then for you and the company?
We want to remain independent. We want to continue our, I think that the culture is nice that we have, and to work with people that we know for specific products that people like. And we want not necessarily to be always bigger, but stronger. I think this strength, to work on our strengths, to produce things in-house, the chocolate, but more and more also other things like the sourcing that we are doing, the developing of the products, even the developing of machines. We are now starting to, we have started to develop machines with some suppliers. I hope we can continue. We'll have to find the next generation to take on.
Are they interested already? Have they
course,
suggested that
of
they
course
might be interested?
They're interested because they think the only job is to eat chocolate and to talk, but they are interested. I have a brother who is also involved in the company. He has 3 children, I have 3 children, and so we're very optimistic that perhaps not all of them, because that would be also complicated, but 1 or 2 of them will take on.
But with the same proviso that that window is always open if they change their mind.
They always should be allowed to quit when they want.
Daniel Bloch, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks. Thank you.